So I figured what I'm going to do is essentially a 4-part series and give you a drive around of the 4 quadrants within Cape Coral. So Cape Coral is laid out into 4 quadrants, 2 in the north, 2 in the south. So you have a northwest, a northeast, and then a southwest and a southeast. And depending on where you are and what you're looking for, what you like doing, what you're looking for is the feel in the neighborhood. There can be a little bit of a different vibe or ambiance depending on where you are. So right now I am standing at Embers Pkwy, which is the divider line from the northern half of Cape Coral to the southern half of Cape Coral. So this is the next east-west road that is just north of Pine Island Road. So if you were to look at Cape Coral on a map, Pine Island Road is a main corridor, and it does kind of look and feel like it would be that center line divider, but it's actually Embers Pkwy. So right now we're in the northwest. We got Embers Pkwy right here, and this is Burnt Store Road behind me. And I'm just going to give you a drive around of this area, talk about some of the features, the amenities, and let you get a feel for it. And then at some point I'll do the northeast, the southwest, and the southeast, and we will go from there. I'm going to jump in the car, get everything set up, and we'll see you again in just a minute. So right now I am eastbound on Embers Pkwy, which, as I mentioned, is the first main east-west corridor just north of Pine Island Road. So right now we are literally driving down the divider line from technically what would be North Cape Coral off to the left and South Cape Coral off to the right. So there are a couple of north-south corridors that are main arteries within Cape Coral. We just passed one of them, which is El Dorado Parkway, and we are then going to be coming up here on Chiquita. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive you down all the way to the central divider line that separates the northwest from the northeast, and then I'll head north, and I'm just going to do a big loop for you for the northwest quadrant. So as far as how Cape Coral developed and was built out, it goes back to I want to say it was the late 60s when the Rosen brothers got their eye on this particular area that is known now as Cape Coral, and decided that it could be developed and turned into a waterfront paradise. There is some very cool backstory to that, and if I'm remembering this correctly, I might even see if I can track this down and put a link below. If I am not mistaken, back in the very, very early days after they had dredged the canals and kind of laid out the infrastructure within the city as far as the layout and the design of what they were envisioning, if I am not mistaken, I think it was The Price is Right, where you actually could win a parcel of land in Cape Coral. I'm going to have to double check that because that's going deep into the memory banks, but I believe it was actually on The Price is Right, which is just kind of interesting when you see some of the old footage.
A 2-bedroom house on a spacious, completely landscaped 80 by 125 foot home site. It's located at Cape Coral, the modern new waterfront city on Florida's beautiful west coast. This aerial view shows some of the Cape Coral's 138 miles of wide navigable waterways. And this section is where the home is situated in block number 121. The living room is spacious, light and airy with a sliding glass wall that leads to a screened sun porch. The kitchen has a built-in oven and range, exhaust hood and formica countertops, and the kitchen door leads to the patio. The 12 by 16 master bedroom is breeze conditioned and has a huge sliding door closet. In all, the Cherokee home encompasses 1,600 square feet of gracious living space on a 10,000 square foot Cape Coral home site, and it'll be yours if the price is right. Price Authority, Gulf Guarantee Land and Title Company, Cape Coral, Florida. Arlene?
Oh, so it stands at 16,600, 16,500, 13,500, and I have the actual retail price of this house in Florida on Cape Coral right in here, and it is $15,070, and the winner is Mrs. Patrick.
There's a brief little documentary that's probably 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes long, kind of about the origins and beginnings of Cape Coral. I'll see if I can track that down and put a link below, because if you're thinking about moving to this area, or even if you live elsewhere in the state, or you already live here, if you haven't seen this documentary, it is rather interesting, just from the standpoint of a quick little summary of the origins and the backstory with the Cape. So right now we are coming upon Nelson Boulevard, and that is going to be a north-south corridor as well. And then the next major road that we are going to come to is going to be Santa Barbara Boulevard, which is the divider, if you will, from the west to the east as far as the quadrants in Cape Coral. So as far as a mailing address in Northwest Cape Coral, there is not a whole lot in the way of commercial establishments. Now, given where the divider line is, being Embers Pkwy, basically one main thoroughfare south of Embers is Pine Island Road. And if you pull up a map of Cape Coral and look at Pine Island Road, you are going to see, a plethora of stores, restaurants, shops, facilities, and Pine Island Road essentially is a commercial thoroughfare. So auto repair shops, air conditioning companies, cabinet companies, pretty much anything that you can think of as far as smaller type retail or commercial establishments, you're going to find that along Pine Island Road. So while within the true mailing address of the Northwest, there isn't a whole lot that you're going to find as far as, let's say, restaurants or stores. You're not far away from having all of those types of things available to you. So this is simply a residential neighborhood here in the Northwest, and with kind of the backstory on how Cape Coral was built out and ultimately developed. It started in the southeast. So as far as the age of the homes, the style of the homes, the elevation of the homes, and retail and commercial types of. So apologies for the sudden cutoff. It looks like my phone, I might be a little too early in the day right at the moment, because I just realized that the phone overheated. So I'm thinking it's picking up just enough sunlight through the windshield that it got too hot. So with where the video cut off, I believe I was talking about essentially the development within Cape Coral and how the southeast is the oldest quadrant. So from the standpoint of, the buildings, whether residential, retail, or commercial, things definitely have a different look and feel down in the southeast as compared to other areas throughout Cape Coral, because it is the oldest section of Cape Coral. So there are homes in the southeast portion of Cape Coral that could very well have been built So there are homes and buildings and, again, commercial or retail in Southeast Cape Coral that could still be original structures from the late 60s, the 70s, the 80s, into the 90s even. So with the way that the growth progressed, and I'll just give you an idea of where I am right now. So if you were looking at a map, I am now on Santa Barbara Boulevard heading north. So this is the road that divides the western half of Cape Coral from the eastern half of Cape Coral. And we just crossed Tropicana Parkway, which is the next east-west corridor north of Embers Pkwy. And then we will be coming upon Diplomat Parkway up here, and that is another east-west corridor up here in the northern part of the Cape. So as Cape Coral grew and development continued and things progressed, it started moving into the southwest, started moving further north on the eastern half of Cape Coral, and then up here in the northwest, it is, for the most part, the newest part of Cape Coral. Now, homes have been built here in the northwest, going back more than 25 or 30 years. But as you can see, while we drive along in this area, there are still a lot of undeveloped parcels. So there is plenty of room for more homes and growth and expansion. As you'll note, when I do a drive-through in, let's say, the southeast or the southwest, you're going to see that the ability for additional build out or more homes is going to be greatly reduced, as those are much closer to, let's say, being at build out capacity than where we are right now. As far as what you can expect, depending on where you are in the Cape, in regard to, let's talk about the water and water resources available to you. Cape Coral is comprised of about 120 square miles, and as I mentioned in the video when I was doing the Crystal Lake overview, it is the second largest city in the state of Florida based on square mileage, second only to Jacksonville. So it is a very large footprint on the map as far as square miles. If you look at Cape Coral on a map, what you are going to see is that along the northern and western edge down to the southwest, then wrapping around, counterclockwise, if you will, moving over to the southeast, and then moving north on the eastern edge, about 3/4 of Cape Coral is going to offer you, on the perimeter there, the ability to find a home that has saltwater access to, Matlacha Pass or the Caloosahatchee River, and then ultimately the open Gulf. I don't know right now, technically, truly, I don't know for sure if it is still the Gulf of Mexico or if it is the Gulf of America, but we all know what body of water I am referencing in that capacity. So when you get up to northeast Cape Coral, you pretty much then lose the ability to have any kind of Gulf access waterfront property. And if you, again, look at Cape Coral on a map, you can see that just with the way it's laid out, the way the land structure is, connecting it to, Florida and Fort Myers and everything else, the the Caloosahatchee River kind of divides Cape Coral from Fort Myers, and it's up there very near where you transition from the southeast to the northeast, that the river then kind of veers off more to the east toward Lake Okeechobee, and that northeast sector of Cape Coral is somewhat isolated from any water. Now, all throughout and within the central part of Cape Coral, so it doesn't matter which quadrant you are in, whether it is the southwest, the southeast, the northeast, or the northwest, if you look anywhere in the middle part of Cape Coral, you are still going to see that there are canals everywhere. There are over 400 miles of navigable waterway in Cape Coral. But in that central part of Cape Coral, it is all fresh water. So depending upon what your, and this is actually a very, I'm going to digress here for a moment. This is a very unique community that is kind of tucked up here. So we're way at the north end of Santa Barbara Boulevard in North Cape Coral. And this little Northwoods neighborhood here certainly has a very southern Florida charm and appeal about it that does not feel like realistically any other area within Cape Coral. Most of what you're going to find inside of the Cape is going to be somewhere around a quarter acre to 1/3 of an acre parcels. A double or a quarter acre is considered a double, so it's 80 by 125 in terms of linear feet, and a triple lot, which is starting to push a little bit closer to around 1/3 of an acre, is going to be 120 wide by 125 deep. This little neighborhood tucked up here, obviously, as you can see, and I'll be turning around so you have a little bit of a better view of the properties off to my right at the moment. There is definitely some larger land mass. You don't see too many areas in the Cape where you've got enough property to have like a traditional white picket fence and everything else. So this is a neat little pocket as far as what the look and the feel is. So definitely a little bit more of a natural and woodsy feel. This little neighborhood here, just looking ahead and seeing the pines and everything else, it almost feels like you're getting close to entering a campground. But these homes are set back from the street. It's not neighbor right on top of neighbor, so it is just a very unique, very little sector way up here in the northern central part of Cape Coral. But as far as the waterways in the Cape, there are many lakes all throughout the central part of Cape Coral, and many of those are connected via canals. Now, there are going to be limitations in that regard. If you lived on a waterfront canal, freshwater canal, let's say somewhere in the Northeast Cape, you may or may not be able to get somewhere into the Southeast or the Northwest, because with all the roads that are throughout the Cape, there are often instances where there are some spillways and some things in place to help control the flow of the water. So it's not like all of those canals are directly connected where you could navigate them in a boat or a kayak or a paddleboard. If you're dealing with a vessel that you can carry or do some portaging like a kayak or a paddleboard, you may be able to work your way around a spillway or a road and continue your journey. But if you are in a boat with an engine or a motor, propeller driven, and you're trying to navigate along, you're going to get to spots where you can not proceed and have to go back in whatever direction you came from. But a lot of those canals are going to be intertwined with some of the bigger lakes throughout central Cape Coral. And then again, everything for the most part on the perimeter of Cape Coral, from roughly, let's say, around the number 2 on a clock all the way around to about 11 on the clock in a clockwise direction. So roughly 3/4 of that clock, you're going to have the ability to find a home where you have access to the Gulf of Mexico and more of a saltwater or a brackish canal that you could be a part of. So we're very far north in the Cape right now. We are currently heading west. We are on Wilmington Parkway, and this is heading us kind of back to where I'd originally come from as I was driving down Embers Pkwy and heading east. So this is going to be about as undeveloped as you are going to find in Cape Coral. As far as this city goes, where we are right now would be considered, kind of living way out in the boonies. And as you can see, we're very, very sparse on homes and development on this particular road. So we are now back to Chiquita Boulevard, which we had passed earlier in our journey when we were down on Embers Parkway. So I'm now heading south on Chiquita, and with pretty much, every couple of feet or every mile that I drive at this point, heading south here on Chiquita, you are going to start noticing more and more in the way of, homes and development here. We're getting back into what would be considered a little bit more populated of an area. So Kismet here is another east-west corridor. This is a main thoroughfare to basically get yourself connected from Burnstore Road all the way to the eastern side of Cape Coral, which would be Del Prado Boulevard, and then even beyond from there.
And as of the data recording, what you're going to see here is that the median sold price for homes in the Northwest Cape Coral area is going to run from the mid 300s up through the mid 500s. Now, if we take a look at homes currently for sale, what you're going to see is generally, again, previous slide supporting this, mid 300s or so as your entry point, and some going as high as possibly $3 million. But if we take a slightly closer look, it's that western edge where you have the Gulf access properties. So whether a waterfront home or even a dry lot in these neighborhoods, the price point is generally going to be a little bit higher as compared to this slide, which is going to be freshwater, canal front homes and dry lots as well. But this is going to be kind of the eastern side of Northwest Cape Coral, and the price point generally is going to be a little bit lower than the saltwater area.
So with where we are right now, and this bridge right here that we're driving over, for example, that was just a canal system here in the Northwest Cape, and that would have been a freshwater canal. In order to find yourself on brackish or saltwater, you pretty much need to be west of Burnstore Road. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head west right now, and I'm going to go ahead and get the Burnstore Road, and then I am going to continue west to Old Burnstore, and show you what that looks like from over there on the very western perimeter of the Northwest Cape. Now, depending on where you may have a home over near Old Burn Store, you are either going to have access to the Gulf of Mexico truly from your backyard in a boat. But the big difference, depending on exactly where you are, is whether or not you have any bridges that you need to clear in order to get out to the Gulf. So if you are west of Old Burn Store Road, any properties in that area are going to be truly unrestricted direct access to the Gulf of Mexico. If you are east of Old Burn Store, but let's say west of Burn Store, you have lots of options for a waterfront home, but you're going to have to bear in mind what the height requirements are for your boat or your vessel, as there's going to be typically at least one bridge that you would need to be able to get underneath in order to get out to the Gulf. So the bridge heights are rather accommodating. There are many people with 25 to 34-foot boats in their backyard that, as long as you don't have monster outriggers or a T-top that is too high, or sonar and radar navigational stuff on top of your T-top, you can definitely clear the bridges and get out to the Gulf. But it is something that you certainly need to be cognizant of and aware of if you are looking for your next home in this general area. So as far as the real estate and the homes in this area that we're driving through right now, I'm not saying that there may not be an isolated one-off property here and there that is, noticeably older than the others, but you can typically expect in this Northwest area, the majority of the homes here are probably going to be 1990 or newer. When you get down into the Southwest and the Southeast, that is where you're going to find, especially in the Southwest, many newer homes without a doubt. But you may also then find properties that could have been built back in the 80s, possibly even into the 70s, just with what the progression and the nature of the development was as growth progressed outward from southeast. So right now we are sitting in the middle of Burn Store Road. We are, I believe, on Gulfstream Parkway here. So any homes that you see here that have water in their backyard, or any bridges that we may cross, these are going to be essentially Gulf access waterfront homes at this point. And I'm thinking with the camera angle that may or may not be clearly evident. Like, we just passed a house that was at the end of a canal. Since this is one of the major east-west corridors here, you're not seeing nearly as much in the way of development right along this road as you would if we turn down one of the side streets, which I am going to do here just for the sake of it. So as far as this neighborhood that we're driving through right now, this is going to be very indicative of what the feel and the vibe is going to be throughout the northwest sector of Cape Coral. We are still a little bit far, let's say, to the north side, so it is not as developed as neighborhoods as you move a little further south, even if you stay in the northwest. So these homes here are going to be your standard 80 by 120, roughly 10,000 square feet or a quarter of an acre. And this is garbage day in the northwest. So now we are coming upon Old Burnstore Road, and it is from this point forward that if you are on a waterfront Gulf access canal, that you also would have unrestricted Gulf access with no bridges to be able to get out to the Gulf. So right now we are heading south on Old Burnstore Road, and if I banged a U-turn right now and drove a couple of minutes the other direction, that would end up taking us up to the new Crystal Lake recreational facility that I did another video on recently. So right now we are southbound on Old Burnstore Road, and as you can see, we just crossed over a bridge. So if you lived anywhere to the left, you have access to the Gulf, but you do have to fit under that bridge that we just drove over. If you live off to the right here, these canal systems are going to tie in directly with the Northwest Spreader Canal, which is the main body of water on the western edge of Cape Coral. And that entire Northwest Spreader Canal is unrestricted access all the way from the north down to where it leads you out to Matlacha Pass, just on the north side of Pine Island Road. And there's a pretty cool view back here, and I think this will bring a little bit of this into perspective. So I'm going to turn around real quick. So I'm hoping you can see this as clearly as I can. So straight out ahead of us here, you have homes on this canal system here that is, in line with us. But then as you get out past this house up here on the left corner that is furthest away from us, you can hang a left, and that's going to put you into that Northwest Spreader Canal and take you in a southerly direction. And then if you went all the way to those mangroves in front of us, past the boat immediately in front of us, and went to the right, that would ultimately take you all the way to the very northwest of water accessible Cape Coral, which pretty much puts you right at that Crystal Lake Park that I had mentioned just a minute ago and did a video on just here recently. So pretty awesome in terms of the vision that the Rosen brothers had when they were laying out this area, from the standpoint of just creating so much opportunity to own a home and have Gulf access property right there in your backyard. So I don't know how much you're gonna actually be able to see here. But off to the right, and I'll definitely throw an image here into the video for you. So off to the right here is what's known as the Seven Islands. So they're very unique. I'm not quite sure what the backstory, the origin of how these came to be really is, but there are 7 parcels that are essentially rectangular in nature and overall shape. And there is a major 7-island project that is currently in the works. So these 7 islands are all going to end up being developed, and there is going to be retail shops, restaurants, condominiums, marinas, boat storage. It is, if you don't live here, this may not resonate with you, but it is probably going to have, on a smaller scale, a feel very much like being down at the very southern end of Chiquita, where Rum Runners is in Cape Coral, and then there's Tarpon Point Marina, where you have retail shops and restaurants and all that sort of thing. So they're definitely destination points. While residential in nature as well, they are also going to bring a whole slew of new business to this immediate area. And we are, as a result, finally going to be able to say that there is shopping and restaurants and amenities and facilities available, technically and truly, with a Northwest Cape Coral mailing address. But that is going to be a major development, and it's going to be underway for a couple of years. But it's going to be very interesting to see that progress and how that comes along. So right here at this bend, we are at the very southern tip of Old Burn Store Road. So this is basically where it begins. We just passed Serenia Vista Park, which I have done a prior video on. So at this point now, we are heading north, once again on Old Burn Store Road. There's a huge basin over here to the right, but for just clarity again, all of these homes on this basin and everyone beyond this to the right, we just went over a bridge, and that bridge would need to be navigable by your boat or your vessel, in terms of you being able to fit underneath that bridge to then to get out, to that North Cape spreader waterway and on out to bigger and open water. So we're back to the divider line. We were technically just in the southwest, as we are now back to Embers Parkway. And in terms of where this video originally started, it was about 2 miles straight in front of me. This particular parkway, and I believe this is a byproduct of the project with those 7 islands that is, slated to be underway before too long. They are doing a median beautification project here on Embers Parkway right at the moment. So before what you are seeing here right now, there had not been any curbing in the middle of the road. There was no, there's a little bit of grass and not much going on there, but they're digging this out. They are putting in curbing, and there's going to be landscaping, and there's irrigation in this whole central divider here. And I don't know for sure what prompted all of this, but I believe it's got something to do with this whole Seven Islands project that is now kind of behind us as far as the direction we're driving, because this is going to be one of the main roads to access, the whole new Seven Islands community once that is done and complete. Right here, we're coming up on Burnt Store Road again, and I think I'll wrap up this video with this particular lake or basin that we have right here to the right, just because this is a notorious manatee viewing section, especially in the winter months when the manatees are looking to get into some warmer water. So that was Burnt Store Road that we just were looking at, and just on the other side of Burnt Store Road is where I actually started this video. So we have essentially looped around all of the northwestern quadrant of Cape Coral, aside from going way far to the north in the very, very top left corner up by that Crystal Lake area. But this here is a big basin and very shallow water out here. It's very deceiving, but I've been out here on my kayak before, and you could truly and realistically walk across most of this water. So it looks deeper than it is, and because of the shallow nature and the fact that it will retain warmth and be a refuge, if you will, for manatees and other creatures in the winter months when things do cool down a bit, you oftentimes will see people standing around here, because there truly and literally could be manatees all over the place, right out here in this basin. And then looking straight ahead at the angle that we are here, you can see that there are some construction containers and dumpsters and whatnot down here to the right of these boats in the building here. So these are the Blue Water coach homes right off of Burnt Store Road, and right next to that, we're looking south right now, there is a whole new development going in right there that is also going to have some condominium type residential housing, a couple of retail stores, restaurants, some marina facilities, and then just past those dumpsters and that construction stuff that you're seeing there is the Burnt Store boat ramp. So if you lived up in this area but you have a boat that will not fit under the bridges, you do have a boat ramp here that you can access. But if you need to clear a bridge, this boat ramp is not going to do it for you, because it is inside of Old Burnt Store Road. So in order to drop yourself into a canal with a larger boat where you don't have any bridges, you need to head over toward Matlacha, and there's a boat ramp at D&D Bait and Tackle right next to Michelli's restaurant. And then if you go a little further along, there is the boat ramp there, right in Matlacha, right there next to the Blue Dog restaurant at the Matlacha Park there. So with that, I think I'm going to wrap this up. I think what I'm going to do here is just give you a final quick view of what a neighborhood here in the Northwest Cape looks like right at the moment. This is actually not very far from where I live, and we have been in our home for quite a long time when you look at the development time frame for the Northwest Cape. We certainly were not the first family to build a home up in this general area, but when we built our home, or had our home built in 1999, if you stood in our driveway and you looked to the left, you could see a total of 2 homes. If you looked straight out in front of you, there was one. And if you looked down the street to the right, there was one. So in a total, viewing distance or visual capacity from our driveway, when we built our home in 1999, there were 4 homes that you could see. I will drive you through one of the arteries in our neighborhood, and what you're going to see is remarkable in regard to how much growth and development there has been over the course of the last 25 years or so. Living here and just seeing how this area has exploded and grown is it's just truly remarkable. It's probably not going to be anything too surprising or noteworthy if you are not from this area or are not familiar with this area, but having been here for as long as I have, seeing just the simple fact that most of these residential streets in this immediate area pretty much have almost no vacant land left that could be developed. It is it's remarkable. The only constant is change. So we will just pick a road and take a drive on down real quick, and with that we will then call it a wrap. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. If you have any questions about anything in the Cape Coral area or Southwest Florida in general, please do not hesitate to reach out. I'd be more than happy to help and guide in any way that I can, answer any questions, and if it's something that I don't have the answer to, I have been hanging around these parts since 1994, and I've been vacationing down here since the early 70s. It is very likely that I would be able to reach out and connect you with someone that can give you the answer to whatever your question is if it's not something that I can help you with. So driving through this neighborhood, you can clearly see that, unlike Wilmington Avenue up in the very northern and central part of the Cape, there are not too many undeveloped lots in this immediate area anymore. So there's been a lot of growth and a lot of development, but it's an absolutely wonderful neighborhood. It's a very safe area and a very safe neighborhood. Very limited in the way of crime or other issues, and the majority of homeowners in this area and throughout pretty much all of Cape Coral do take care of their homes and maintain their properties very well. So it's a great community. It's a very different vibe and feel than, let's say, the east coast of Florida. There are a lot of things about the East Coast that I absolutely love. I've spent a lot of time over there as well over the years, but it's a little too busy for my taste. It's more, I like to call it like New York with palm trees, but this area here, very quiet, very peaceful. Lots of schools throughout Cape Coral, lots of schools here in the Northwest. So with the growth and development that has taken place here recently, there are definitely more children in these neighborhoods than there were in years gone by when our daughters were younger. But it's just a very cool place to raise a family and be able to enjoy a lot of time outdoors. So whether that's going to the beach, dining out, waterfront, boating, golfing, whatever your recreational habits are, this is a wonderful place to do it. And there really aren't any time, periods throughout the year where you can't be engaging in what you want or need to do outdoors. Yeah, it's a little hot in the summertime, but comes with the territory. But throughout those winter months, it's absolutely ideal and beautiful. With that, I'm going to thank you for watching. You take care. Make it a great day. Stay safe out there. If there's ever anything that we can do for you, reach out, let me know, and be happy to help in any way that we can. This is Matt, the Fish and Finance Guy, signing off. Well, hey there, if you are still with me, I am truly hoping you enjoyed the content within this video, and thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video and know anyone else that may be considering relocating or moving to the Southwest Florida market or anywhere in Florida for that matter, please feel free to share this video with them. Subscribe if you would like to see future videos as they become available. I am regularly putting out 1 to 2 videos each week covering all topics and items all throughout the Southwest Florida region. At the time of this recording, I am licensed in mortgage lending, and I have been for just about the last 29 years. I am not licensed in real estate. So even if you do not need mortgage financing for your relocation or your next home purchase here in Florida, I would be more than happy to introduce you to a quality real estate professional, depending on what market you may be looking for your next home in. So if there is ever anything at all that I can do for you, and obviously if you have any questions about mortgage financing, qualifying, if you'd like to chat about the principal first home loan that I specialize in, that is unlike any other mortgage product out there and truly can be life altering and allow you to own your home in years as opposed to decades, please don't hesitate to reach out. Be more than happy to help in any way that I can. This is Matt, the Fish and Finance Guy, signing off, NMLS ID 296861. I will look forward to seeing you in future videos. And if there's anything you'd like me to cover in future videos, feel free to comment down below, and I'd be more than happy to see if I could do a video on whatever your topic or request might be. We'll see you next time.